listening to
A to the K.
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 A to the K Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.
And now for This Week in Wrestling. Carl, would you like to kick us off with the Raw reports? Yes, I'm trying to give it a name.
The Raw Report. So, on the show this week, Anthony, we had Randy Orton addressing his win over Drew McIntyre last week. We had Kevin Owens taking on Aleister Black in a no disqualification match, hopefully ending their feud.
It did not end.
Kevin Owens winning the match. We had an episode of The Miz TV, not the Dirt Sheet.
Interesting, yeah.
Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
with both Miz and Morrison, but still Miz TV, with the guests being Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. So you can imagine it was hella entertaining.
Oh, yeah. Like, how could you, like, that is just such, I mean, there must have been so much humor there, so much passion. You know, what a great segment.
Everything, Anthony, had everything. Except for...
I mean, you could have just ended the night there, you know?
Exactly. We had a triple threat match with Seth Rollins taking on AJ Styles, taking on Jeff Hardy. What was Raw this week? Week? Random as fuck.
Random.
We had Lana and Natalya taking on the newly formed tag team of Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. If you've got a tag team name for them, let them know, because they're asking people on Twitter. So let them know. I thought the plastics didn't go down too well. Then we had Angel Garza taking on Andrade. Angel Garza picked up the win. We had the tag titles on the line with the New Day taking on Rude and Ziggler.
I wonder who was going to win.
Yeah. Shockingly, it was the New Day. Then we had Cedric taking on Ricochet with a cut ties stipulation, Anthony.
Okay.
So basically, Ricochet was like, you know what? If I beat you, you can stop beating me up, guys. And so, yeah.
And that worked.
And yeah, so they can't
this is the difference between hair business and retribution. Hair business follow the rules. Retribution would still beat them up. I don't care.
Exactly.
They're crazy.
As long as they're on their contracted show.
Of course.
They're not outside the contractual obligation.
Yeah, and they don't already hate Raw because, if you hate WWE, then they're going to be your mate, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no flaws in the logic.
Yeah.
And the show ended, Anthony, with a number one contenders women's battle royal.
To be fair, the biggest shock of the night.
It was the biggest shock of the night. Who wins it? Lana. I guess going through 18 tables in the space of about 4 weeks.
Do you know what? This never made it to the news, Carl. Right, before you go into highlights and no shites, this never made it to the news. But apparently, that was WWE booking Lana in a face turn. That was her turning face, being smashed through tables for 4 weeks, and then winning this.
She's still on her face. That doesn't make any sense. Asuka's still a face, right?
No. Apparently, this is them booking Lana to become face.
Lana could never be a face if her life depended on it. So yeah, that's terrible.
But that's apparently the way this is going. That's why they had that falling out with Natty, and Natty was a bit of a git with her. And she ultimately won that battle royal, but she got squashed through tables for weeks. So we became sympathetic to her, all with a means to getting behind Lana, and being all for her taking the win. She's not going to win. If she wins, I'm shocked. I'm not going to say I'll eat my hat. I say that too much, but yeah, come on.
You've still got tummy problems, haven't you?
Yeah, it's not good.
The last few.
Yeah.
But yeah, so weird as fuck.
Indeed.
But in terms of the highlights for this show, Anthony, so feel free to challenge any of these. But in my opinion, it was quite a solid opening.
No.
Very repetitive, for sure. But, I don't know, it feels like the feud is finally ending now between Orton and McIntyre. Orton kind of came out. This time it was in the ring as opposed to backstage. But he said, you know what, the win last week was a sign of things to come. And you know what, it's going to be the same again in Hell in a Cell. Drew comes out and says, you know what, Orton, you're the first to pin me in a year, and I'm not going to wait till Sunday. Nice bit of a brawl, and Randy Orton runs away. I thought it was all right. Repetitive, sure, but still, I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of like, let's just get this done and dusted now. But yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next highlight we have the triple threat. I thought was really, really good. So we had obviously Seth Rollins taking on some new competition for once in his fucking life. It wasn't just the Mysterios. Thankfully, he's free of that feud. Or not, as we'll come on to in SmackDown. But yeah, so it was good to see Seth face anybody outside of a Mysterio this week. So I thought he was really good. AJ Styles was incredible, as he always is.
Of course, yeah.
An amazing showing again for him. And then what happens? We have another surprise, Anthony, and in this instance, it was Elias making a surprise return, and he twats Jeff Hardy over the head with his guitar.
Yeah. Okay.
Setting up AJ for the win. So
Is that because, like, does he blame Jeff for what happened?
So apparently so. So I think he was interviewed later on in the night, and he said, "I've not forgotten. I know it was Jeff who hit me with his car." And it's like, oh, dude, everyone knows it was Sheamus.
Didn't he like sort of prove that as well?
Mm.
Yeah, it feels like he's not been watching SmackDown while he's been off.
It's true, very true. So not the best showing, but you know what? I am happy to have Elias back. I'm a big Elias fan. So great to see him again.
Oh yeah.
And then the final highlight of the night was the actual tag team title match. I thought it was really good to see. Great that Xavier Woods is back. I thought he really shone in this one.
Yeah.
Obviously, the outcome, as we said beforehand, was very predictable. I don't think there was any question New Day wouldn't go on to win it. But you know what? It was just great to see. A bit weird. I did kind of like the whole them dressed as security thing to take the piss out of Randy Orton the previous week and stuff. But yeah, I thought it was really good, really solid match, and I'm glad to see Xavier Woods back, and interesting that him and Kofi are going to be doing a tag title run now.
Yeah, it's I think Xavier was really coming into his own anyway, and sadly was sidelined with that injury. So I made up to see him back in the ring, and he can only be good.
Yeah, same.
Still a bit perplexed that they're splitting New Day up as a trio.
They obviously want to give Big E his own kind of singles run. He's obviously the biggest of the group. He's obviously it's his favourite. So
yeah, it's just whether the shine goes off the apple and then he gets mid-carded to fuck like Sheamus, and he was better off in the New Day. That's the worrying part.
Entirely possible, but at least he's always got that to fall back on potentially.
And no offense to Sheamus, though, he has got like tons more personality, so maybe that'll help. True.
So, in terms of the O'Shite, Anthony, we mentioned it before. Miz TV was fucking awful. Firstly, why was it Miz TV? It should have been the dirt sheet because it was.
It's such I feel like someone's gone. Shit, we deleted the graphics for the dirt sheet, so they've just worked with what they had.
Entirely possible.
Or Vince is on like his other budget cuts again. He's like, no, you got to turn the W upside down like you used to and save me a fucking fortune, all right?
I mean, again, these are all viable options. But yeah, so I thought, Miz and Morrison were fine. Like, they've been pretty shit on SmackDown, but I thought they were okay here on Raw. I thought, they were entertaining to a degree. It was, I'm always been a big fan of the pair of them, and I think they're quite good together. So it was good to see them do a slightly different approach this time, but it's as you expect now of the pair of them. But unfortunately, the guests that they brought on, they can't fucking talk. So why bring on two fucking people to a talk show who can't talk? They were fluffing all of the lines. It was really fucking bad. It was like awful. Like Mandy Rose just. Like Dana Brooke was the biggest fluff. She just couldn't say anything. Mandy Rose was trying to. She was better than I thought she would be, but at the same time, just didn't land anything with conviction. She was like, "Don't even get me started on you, Miz, because of what you did to me with Otis."
With Otis.
Yeah, and it was like, okay.
So I mean, but what you're telling me there is, Carl, like they're not particularly great in the ring. And they're not particularly great on the mic. Why are they there?
Well, Anthony, they basically Vince fancies them, so that's
okay. Because they have really big personalities.
Really big personalities, and lips and teeth, and some other things. But yeah, so that happened. And then what happens next? Obviously, Natty and Lana come out,
Naturally.
the amazing tag team that they are, and a brawl erupts.
And you know what? Like, they're such a long-standing, endearing tag team. You know, they've been together for decades, and they're such good friends. I really hope nothing happens to that.
Exactly. And, you know, where do you expect to go from a segment like this? You've had a talk show segment, and it's like, you know, Miz and Morrison. You've had, you know, fucking Natty and Lana come out. Obviously, the guests with Dana and Mandy. You know, where does it go from there? Well, Lars Sullivan comes out, obviously, and the Miz runs away, and he batters John Morrison. So that happened.
Why?
And do you know what? Lars, he called him a freak, Anthony.
What?
A freak. And it wasn't just once.
No?
It's about 24 times. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
He
interesting.
is a freak.
That is interesting.
Freak.
A super freak? That's super freaky.
Yeah, it's super freaky. But yeah, we will come on to that as well. So I also thought the setup to the triple threat was pretty shit. So Jeff Hardy, we know he's bad on the mic. This was another example of that.
He's bad on everything, Carl. Just because he's willing to throw himself off big things.
You hate him, but at the same time, you know, I've still got a bit of respect.
No, unpopular opinion here, Carl. Just because you met him, right? Unpopular opinion. Being willing to jump off high things doesn't make you a wrestler any more than it made Shane a wrestler. All right.
I mean,
even I know I'm being too unfair.
For whatever reason,
he's had a ton of experience in the. I'm not going to be mean.
For whatever reason, he's always been over with the fans, and it's a shame because for whatever reason, whether he's always been this bad or whether he's just like particularly worse now, he's so bad on the mic. You know, he's never been the strongest of talkers, but this one was just particularly terrible. Seth was fine. You know, he came out, was like, no one can fill my shoes. I've gone to SmackDown, but you know what? You know, I'm still the Monday Night Messiah. No one's gonna be able to take over what I've done. AJ comes out, makes a terrible fucking a lame, like, oh, Jeff Hardy, you're drunk, you know, kind of joke. And it was like, okay. That was, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, we haven't heard that before.
Have you heard the rumor? And again, probably should have made the news, but you heard the rumor that AJ is going to get a bodyguard.
No.
And his bodyguard's going to be that really tall fellow who hung around Shane for a while.
Yeah,
at the door.
Not be, Anthony.
Can't remember his name.
Not be.
I kid you not. The suggestion is he might get a bodyguard. I don't know if it's the same. Sorry, apologies, because they cited him as the really tall ninja of Tozawa's ninjas, but I think it's the same fella, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, I didn't even make that connection.
I believe so. I could be wrong, but it's technically when I read it, they were saying it was the tall ninja, but I'm confident he's also the.
You know what? I did wonder where the tall ninja went. It would make sense if he was the same tall guy at the entrance. But do you know what made this whole segment worse, though, Anthony? And I said Jeff was bad on the mic, but basically after this whole fucking stuff happened, they got this little brawl and stuff. Jeff was on the mic and he was like, do you know what? I want a triple threat tag team match right now. And it was like, what the fuck? Are you drunk? Like,
okay. Let's book that then, Chef.
Tag team guy for fucking ages, but really, you fucking idiot. That was so bad. So bad.
And he kept running to the corner for a tag every 5 minutes. It was weird.
Speaking of awful, Anthony, the women's tag match was awful. Terrible.
Yeah, it was
after the match, as you said previously, Natty comes out and she's like, do you know what, Lana? You know, you're stupid. I'm done with this tag team. And Lana, you know...
so visceral. You're stupid.
So visceral. You're stupid. She's done with it. And you know what, Lana, being the incredible actress that she is, did a terrible rendition of someone who was very upset. So that happened as well. And then, Anthony, do you know what? After the previous week, where, you know, Garza and Andrade were competing for tag team gold, and Zelina, you know, hair going and stuff was like the reincarnation of them as a tag team. They're done now, apparently. Do you know what?
They're done, yeah.
They're done. Like, to the point where it's like, okay. They're now fighting each other. And it's like, right, okay.
Okay.
What? How did we get to here? But yeah, so, you know, forget the fact that they were challenging for the tag titles like the previous week, and forget, you know, how we got from there to here. This is the circumstances we faced. But you know what makes it more interesting? Zelina, who dumped them publicly weeks ago, was sat there on commentary because of her contractual obligations, as apparently she was.
Okay.
Okay. But after this match, she's totally done. Or at least she thought she was done anyway. But, whatevs. I'm not being funny, but why does her contract, make it like an obligation for her to be on commentary? That's not in your contract, love. So,
No.
all right. That didn't make sense. But anyway, Garza wins. And you know what? Zelina, she still cares. She still cares, Anthony, about Andrade.
Of
And,
course.
fuck Garza now, but she still cares about Andrade. And so she gets in the ring, and she's all there just like, we had some good times, didn't we, buddy old pal? And then Alexa and The Fiend turn up.
Naturally,
Almost
because as we know, they really don't like Andrade or Zelina.
Well, exactly. It's almost like they've just been drafted to Raw and they needed a random man and woman to beat up on the show. So,
maybe that was
it's
it.
almost like that, but obviously it was much more well thought out than what.
Yeah, no, it's been in the works for months.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But do you know what? And this is me being super pedantic, but do you know what pisses me off, Anthony? And it does piss me off. And I know it's wrestling, right? But, and this is not a slight on Zelina by any stretch of the imagination, but why did he book things in such a way where, right, Andrade has been through a match, he's been battered, whatever. The Fiend picks him up and he's got him ready for the Sister Abigail and he stood there for ages.
Like
right?
20 minutes, yeah.
Zelina.
Take your time, love.
Super fresh off commentary, like, oh, my boy Andrade, you okay? The next minute, Alexa's there, and she's going to do it too. And Zelina just lies there, just waiting to be beat up.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you fucking stupid? Like,
No,
what are you doing, love? Like,
I'm with you. I've had, it's not similar, but it is, but I've had similar complaints, like when Aleister Black was going to do the Black Mass on Kevin Owens out of nowhere on the KO show, and Kevin Owens had to stay there on his knees for 10 minutes, and I'm like, why didn't you just the timing was too wrong? Do you know what I mean? They need to make it look at least slightly realistic. Why would you just wait for that to happen? She's just there, caught in the Sister Abigail. Well, there's just no way out of this. There's absolutely no way out of this. I'm just gonna have to let it happen.
What am I to do? I know I will just lie here helpless, even though there's no reason why I cannot get away. So yeah, was fuming about the whole thing, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I get that.
So yeah, that happened. But whatever. Then we had Cedric Alexander taking on Ricochet, which was fine. It was a solid match from the pair of them. But at the same time, why use the Eddie Guerrero finish? So this was a match in which if fucking Ricochet won, then the hair business would stop beating them up. So, dead good stipulation. But what happened was the referee, was down as happens, and he did the Eddie Guerrero thing where he hit the chair into the floor, threw the chair at Cedric, and then went out, and the referee disqualified Cedric, and it was like, he's won that way.
To be fair, he's probably been watching the Mysterios for a while now and thinking, well, it works for them. Well, maybe I'll reference Eddie as much as I can. Joking aside, obviously, don't want to be unfair to them this time. But the only thing I want to say, though, is he executed that perfectly, I think. It's random why he did it, but I think he did it seamlessly, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought I'm a massive fan of Ricochet. I think he's super underused in the main product today, and I hope off the back of everything that's happened and the shit feud he's been in with everything, I hope he manages to do something decent for himself with everything going on. Where Ali's fucked off to Retribution, Apollo's gone to SmackDown. It's like he is still on Raw. He's still a fantastic talent. So I hope he just does something decent for himself. The hair business stuff is hopefully fucked off now because the stipulation implies that. So who knows? But I want him to do good. I've always liked him. So fingers crossed. Then Anthony. So this makes me laugh.
Go on.
The Raw season premiere is next week.
Oh, great.
Obviously,
look forward to it.
They work in seasons.
Of course they do. I really enjoyed season 1. Yeah. Not so much season 101.
Well, exactly. And as we saw, the same thing was for SmackDown. So, prior to seeing what happened on SmackDown, my initial thoughts were obviously that, this is a new season. So there's been, a big reset. We're going to get to see, what new feuds happen and stuff like that. Like this is the premiere, Anthony.
This is
It's a
it. They're
new
going to start
season.
a whole new set of things going on. It's going to be
And
so
what do we
good.
get? We get Keith Lee and Braun Strowman again. So
Yay.
that was nice. Definitely kicking things off with new feuds, shall we say?
And also, let's announce Braun Strowman up for the Universal Championship, because he's definitely not going to lose that, even though he's already drafted to Raw and scheduled to have a match with Keith Lee. He's definitely going to beat Roman Reigns, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. So we also got, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we had Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton going at it. Apparently, those guys have been just fighting all night, just like
nice,
like throughout the show, just beating each other up all night. And it's like, really, like what a crock of shit. 3 hours, you're not fighting each other for 3 hours, guys. Like, fuck off.
it's exhausting, man.
Stupid. Like, I'm not being funny. There's no way.
It's almost as long as Edge versus Randy Orton in a Falls Count Anywhere match. That
nearly. I think they had the edge slightly. Hey. But yeah. And then lastly, Anthony, I just wanted to say the Women's Battle Royal was the main event of the evening, and it was not the worst match in the world, to be honest.
No.
Lana?
Like Lana?
Lana?
What uselessness is this? No offense, but if they put the belt on her, that'd be the most useless thing they've ever done, because she's not good in the ring. She can't realistically beat Asuka. If she does, she's not going to have a good title run, because you can't put her up against anyone. Realistically, Lana's the dominant one, unless she's going to surprise the fuck out of us and break out some fantastic wrestling. Unlikely.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they could have used this opportunity to do like Lacey Evans or like Naomi or something, and do something like that. But, fair play to Lana. She has been consistent. She's been there every week. She's taken some shit. She's tried her best and all that good stuff.
Don't be wrong. Queen are taking bumps at the minute, but
yeah,
like, no one's going to realistically believe she has a chance against Asuka.
No. And I mean, that is the main thing. It's not believable. You've got plenty of other women who should be having that spot in her place, but then the way they do it as well, they had Natty be the one who thought she'd won it, and then Lana, who was on the outside for a bit, not eliminated but on the outside recovering, comes back in and ends up picking up the elimination.
Okay, so I'll call it now if you'd like. Then Natty's going to ruin her chance at Asuka. Then she's not going to lose to Asuka. Natty's going to cost her the match.
Maybe, but is Natty not gone to SmackDown now? I've lost track with her, if I'm honest.
I don't think so.
She might have done.
Has she?
I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I mean, it could be refreshing for her, because she doesn't do much anyway.
I might be able to tell you shortly, but if I don't mention it, then she probably hasn't. But so that was the show. In terms of, obviously, this was night 2 of the draft. So what did we get on the draft, Anthony?
Hit me with it, Carl.
For Raw, Randy Orton stays. Charlotte stays, even though she's not there. Retribution, because
that's what I say. It says Charlotte stays at home.
Oh yeah, that was it. Charlotte stays at home. Retribution stays being corporate shills. Keith Lee stays. R-Truth stays. David Kato, is he on Raw? Stays.
Apparently.
Titus O'Neil, is he on Raw? Stays. Peyton Royce stays. Akira Tozawa stays. He is not dead. He hasn't been eaten by a shark.
Yeah, he wasn't devoured.
He was not devoured, Tozawa. Kevin Owens moves to SmackDown. The Street Profits move to SmackDown. Fucking yes. Dolphin Rude moves to SmackDown. Apollo moves to SmackDown. And Aleister Black moves to SmackDown.
Shout out, by the way, before we move on to the rest, shout out to the most logical decision ever for the 2 tag teams just to meet up and swap belts.
Yeah, I mean...
No fucking around, no messing around, no changing the colours of the belts for keeping the belts you had, no match for it, nothing like that, just, well, it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
very fucking logical.
It was definitely weird, but definitely logical at the same time. And then for SmackDown, however, that's where things get slightly different. So Bailey stays. Daniel Bryan, who we've not seen in forever, stays, and he will be coming back. Baron Corbin stays. Sami Zayn stays. Cesaro and Shinsuke stay. Carmella stays. Well, that explains all the vignettes that they've done the last few weeks, and we still haven't seen her, but she stays. Then the rest of the guys fucking move. So The Fiend is on Raw. Braun Strowman is on Raw. Matt Riddle is on Raw. Jeff Hardy is on Raw. Alexa Bliss is on Raw. Elias has gone to Raw. Lacey Evans has gone to Raw.
Yeah.
Sheamus has gone to Raw.
Yeah.
Nikki Cross has gone to Raw. And
Wow, we've
Lars
just-
Sullivan joined SmackDown.
Okay, so it's okay then. We've totally raided SmackDown and took all the top stuff, but it's okay. We've got Lars.
I mean, they kind of said it like Lars Sullivan remains on SmackDown. As like, was he there to begin with, or
I don't know.
has he come from Raw?
Since he come back, he's appeared on every show, so I wouldn't have fucking known.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? So that was, Anthony, night 2 of the draft. That sets us up for the next year in terms of who's going to be on what show, unless they introduce some weird invitational thing that doesn't make any sense to anyone, but they just put people on other shows.
Or
anyway.
do things like, I don't know, have Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler get transferred over to Raw, only to be drafted back to SmackDown within a matter of weeks and months. I think Bobby Roode was seen on Raw twice before moving back to SmackDown under the pretense of a draft.
I also think I saw a weird stat that The Miz has changed brands every show.
Nice. That is an interesting one.
But yeah, so Anthony, that was Raw for me. So all in all, everything being considered, it was not great, but at the same time, there was a lot of excitement. The draft happened, and so for me, it gets middle of the road. I'm going to give it 2.5.
I think that's fair. I might have been leaning maybe towards a 2, but I think 2.5 is fair. It wasn't bad. It's probably better than a lot of Raws we've had. I don't know whether that's the inclusion of random matches that I've not seen, so it's a bit refreshing. But yeah, 2.5 I think is a fair shout. I'm going to go the same.
Nice.
So let's talk SmackDown, shall we? No, not SmackDown. Wait. Let's talk NXT, shall we? So as far as NXT goes, Carl, typical of NXT, we had a decent card, we had some decent matches, and yeah. So as far as the card goes, we saw Larkin and Birch go up against the Strong Fish. This was a number 1 contenders match for the tag titles, and we saw Strong and Fish take the win. We saw Ember Moon cut a promo again, saying the same thing again. We saw Ashante Adonis versus Jake Atlas, with Jake Atlas taking the win. We saw Johnny Gargano going up against Austin Theory, with Johnny Gargano taking the win. No surprise there. We saw Candice LeRae go up against Shotzi Blackheart, with Candice LeRae taking the win. We saw Toni Storm make her return match, I suppose, against Aaliyah, who's apparently still part of the Robert Stone brand. That is still a thing, with Toni Storm taking the win. Then we saw Killian Dane and Drake Maverick up against Imperium, with Imperium taking the win. We saw Damian Priest close the night off in a North American title match against Dexter Lumis, with Damian Priest taking the win. All in all, some good matches on there. However, let's talk the highlights first. Let's be fair. So, and it's only a brief mention because it's also an shite, and I'll discuss why shortly. Theory and Gargano was actually a really good match. These two have good chemistry in the ring, enjoyable to watch. That's the highlight I'm going to give it. There is a negative to this. But we'll continue with the highlights. Shotzi and Candice match was very good, right? Fuck it, I'm going to mess into my highlights, right? It's the reason Gargano and Theory didn't work for me was the amount of losses Theory has had to suffer since returning to NXT. In fact, before that, when he was on Raw as well. But Gargano getting the win is just serving Theory another loss. And it's just a massive squash. AEW have got freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. We've got regularly squashed Austin Theory over here on NXT.
Love it.
It's not good at all for Austin Theory. Now, what they're trying to set up is both Candice and Gargano going for both titles again. So, for fuck's sake. But he has been a victim of that. Now, the reason I needed to mention that now is because the Shotzi and Candice match was really good match. And arguably, you could have said the same thing, like, oh, it's just squashing Shotzi. But it actually worked really well. And the reason I think it worked well is because Candice had to... They carried on building this thing with Indy Hartwell wanting to be part of the Gargano family, as it were. So she chucked to the brass knuckles, and basically Candice had to resort to heel tactics to get the win. Now, given that they're trying to build these two as heel characters, that works for me. It doesn't weaken Shotzi. and it even sets up for further battles between them two, I suppose. So I was actually okay with Shotzi taking the loss here. It seemed like a foregone conclusion, given that she's hosting Halloween Havoc, and this match was to challenge for Io Shirai's belt at Halloween Havoc. But I don't know. For me, I'm okay with the way that one executed, and I don't think it's been too damaging to Blackheart, unlike Theory and Gargano's match, which was quite damaging to Theory because he's not had much of a good run at all since he come back.
Yeah.
So I'll carry on with the highlights, and I'm interested in how you feel about this. I'm still loving the odd couple friendship that is Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. We had a little sort of bit where Dane runs down Everrise, and he basically goes over to Maverick and tells him, "Nobody hits you but me." And it's just that sort of, it's like he has some sort of weird friendship with him. I just love that sort of oddball dynamic, the way it carries on working. Like Maverick's still desperately trying to get them to sort of synchronize as a team, but Dane still like gets the music cut, and he's not willing to sort of, dress similar or be a fully fledged tag team, which is funny because we normally love a tag team that is a really obvious tag team. Like they have similar outfits, similar, they have a name. They're actually an established tag team, and this is the thing that Dane is resisting so much. And I don't know. I quite like the way that they have these two, the dynamic between these two. And as much as I know you aren't a fan of the way these two are put across, because they're sort of better than this in their own right, I think they're doing really good work with what they've got.
Yeah. I'm not like massively against it or anything, but at the same time, I feel like I'm just a bit done with these like odd couple tag teams. It's a bit like, okay, well, we would never be tag teams in the real like world, but we are a tag team anyway, and no one else can beat you up but me. And it's like, what?
If you're gonna look at an oddball tag team at the minute, would you rather this or Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler?
Well, yeah, this every day of the week.
Exactly.
But I fucking
because they're doing something with it.
Nia Jax, so.
But to me, though, but Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are an example of how not to do it. Like, we don't get along, and that's it. There's no story, there's no amusement, there's nothing. These two, they make something at least slightly interesting or slightly humorous about it. I'm enjoying it. Fuck you. And my last highlight was the slightly. I'll be honest, right? I'm not happy with the fact that we are going to see Gargano go up against Priest, and we're going to see Candice go up against Shirai again. I'm not thrilled with that being the result, right? And I'll mention that a bit more in my Oshites, but the fact that they ended the night off with them two getting what they wanted, but then Shotzi Blackheart introducing the spin the wheel, make a deal, which I think's been used before in previous Halloween Havocs, possibly WCW days, was like, well, at least that's a bit intriguing. That might add a bit of a fun element to this. What do you make of this spinning the wheel, Carl? I think you've probably seen it before, days gone by.
Yeah, it definitely came from the WCW days, so it's a continuation. It reminds me a little bit of, for whatever reason, that this incarnation reminds me of the Bischoff thing on Raw, where he was like the Raw Roulette.
Yeah,
yeah. More of that than it does the original, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Gargano back up against like for the North American Championship again. Like Candice, I can see her again. That doesn't bother me as much, but like I just feel like Gargano's either constantly with fucking Ciampa or constantly for the North American title or both, and it's like there's nothing else to him.
Yeah. No, I do have a couple more notes on that because, in fact, I'll jump onto it now if I could. It's the fact that, right, and I found this really impressive because WWE, right, have the ability. They've managed to set up two matches that I really don't want to fucking see in one foul swoop on NXT this week, because they had Dexter Lumis go up against Damian Priest, right? I'm not a big fan of Damian Priest, but this was an interesting match for me, right? I like it. I like Dexter Lumis. It's a match I've not seen all too much. I'm on board for it, right? But then we see Grimes interfering and costing Lumis the match to carry on setting up that feud between Grimes and Lumis, which I don't want to see. Then we saw Gargano rock up and hit Damian Priest with a chair, further setting up the NA title match that Regal announced, right? And I'm like, I don't want to see that either. Like, I would have much preferred the match you've just fucking cheated me out of.
Yeah.
I didn't get a result to a match that was actually potentially quite interesting. And now I have to put up with Gargano up against Priest again. And bear in mind, I don't even find Gargano all that likable. So Priest and Gargano, for me, is not a good matchup. As much as they're both good wrestlers, I'm kind of done with seeing that. And yeah, the Loomis and Grimes I never wanted. I'm just not a big fan of Grimes. I don't get why it's not evenly matched. Like, for me, I don't know if you agree or not, Carl, but looking at Grimes versus Loomis, there's a logical win. Like, if Loomis doesn't win, I don't get why Grimes is even a credible threat to Loomis. He seems more the hokey one who's going to get squashed by Loomis. I don't get why he's put across more legitimate than I expected, I suppose, the way NXT book him. Like, why is Austin Theory getting squashed all the time, but Grimes is like taking it to Dexter Loomis, who's a monster? Doesn't make any sense to me.
I think to the point you made before, I feel like I would much rather see the match that we were cheated out of than the two matches they tried to set up. So, yeah, it was disappointing all around, I think.
Yeah, so sadly, not good stuff. The other shite I've got was just a mention of Isaiah Swerve and Santos Escobar are continuing their feud, showing an interruption in the Adonis match, and ended up obviously giving more momentum to their feud, which for me is kind of done. Like, I don't get why we're still watching these. Like, Escobar's took it to him twice now, so I'm like, what else? Are you just going to keep going until you eventually win? Does it class as a win if you've had 7 losses and then you finally beat them? I don't know. I'm like, can we not see Escobar go up against someone else? He didn't even have much of he didn't have much of a run against Maverick, and that's what I thought they were building to originally. And then you barely got it. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm a little bit done with that. Not as much as I am with Gargano, but there you go. Right. So the last one I've got, Carl, and I'm trying not to be negative because it's good to see Toni Storm back. And it did what it needed to do on paper. So she comes back. She has a match against Aaliyah. And it was a weird match for me because it felt like it was meant to be a squash. Because Toni Storm's coming back. She's going to look dominant. She's going to take the win, right? And she did. She come back and she took the win. What I feel they failed on was looking dominant. It wasn't a very good match for Toni. Like, she got the win, yeah, but like, she didn't really show any dominance or get much offense in at all against her. So then I'm like, well, does that make you look? And like, I know on paper she got the win, and you know it's still momentum, but it's like that didn't really make you look incredible. Like, it didn't make you look strong. I might be being unfair there, but I don't know.
No, I agree. I think she's obviously been away for quite a while now, and this is like her reintroduction to the mainstream fans, and you know she's come back into it, and like as you said, it's meant to be like, oh, we saw her last week and on the video, and fucking hell, she's going to be something big, and she was just like hung in there and managed to grind out the win, and it was like, I don't know, surely introducing yourself to the fan base, you would expect a squash.
Yeah, exactly, and it was, for me, it was like on paper meant to be a squash. I just don't get why it went, but hey ho, that's what we got. But as shites go, that was my last one. For me this week, Carl, I'd keep it on par with Raw. You know, there were bits I really didn't like, but it was still a solid match, and I'll be honest, the card was quite well padded out, really. So I'd probably give it a 2.5.
Okay, I don't know whether it's my NXT bias. I have given it a 2.
No,
so
fair.
I don't know. There was bits I liked, but I think the whole Damian Priest Loomis thing was like the biggest annoyance. I'm not as over as you on Killian Dane and Drake Maverick as a tag team.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of bits like that, but I thought, yeah, it was okay. It was definitely wasn't a terrible show, but yeah, I can't give it 2.5 because there was just too many things I didn't like.
Yeah, I get that. Well, Carl.
But Anthony, taking you on to the 1-year anniversary of the Superior Wednesday Night Show.
It's been a year already.
It's been a year, and what a fucking year it's been. Pretty shit in terms of the world, but, you know, pretty good in terms of Dynamite, I would say. So the card we got to witness this week, so pretty much every title was on the line. So we had the tag titles on the line with FTR defending against Best Friends, with FTR retaining their belts. We had Miro and Kip Sabian in a tag team contest against Sean Maluta and Lee Johnson, with Miro and Sabian picking up the win. MJF has a big announcement he wants to share. We have Tony Schiavone interviewing Britt Baker at the Spa. We have the TNT title on the line with Cody taking on Orange Cassidy. The women's title on the line with Hikaru Shida taking on Big Swole. I realise I'm missing out the winners. Cody won that one and Shida wins this one. And the main event was Jon Moxley taking on Lance Archer for the AEW title, with Moxley also retaining. So no titles change, but all in all, the show was very good. So in terms of the highlights, so the tag match that kicked off the show was pretty solid. A couple of issues I did have with it, which I'll cover in the O'Shites, but all in all, I thought it was solid. A good showing from the pair of them. FTR are the most solid tag team you will ever see.
Yeah, they're really proven their worth, aren't they, to be fair?
They are tag team wrestling. They are old school tag team wrestling. They are the tag team wrestling that needs to be brought back today. They are very, very good. Best Friends are no slouches either, so they also put on a great show.
Yeah.
So the match itself was fine. They have definitely got one of the better tag divisions in the business, probably better than WWE's if you look at it from,
Yeah.
an unbiased
I think that's
lens.
fair to say, because WWE are not great with tag teams. Like, they randomly split them up when they feel like it.
Definitely AEW gives their division more prominence as well, which I think kind of shines through. But yeah, definitely strength and depth. But FTR retained. They did use the belt in order to do so, which I'll come into when we talk about the O'Shites. But all in all, decent opening to the show, I would say. MJF and Chris Jericho segment. The pair of them are fucking wonderful. I love them both so much.
Yeah.
This segment was silly, but in like the best way you could imagine. I just loved, and I've said this before, I just love all the little moments with each of them. So like throughout the whole, confrontation, the whole segment, Jake Hager and Wardlow just sit there or stand there in silence, staring at each other. It's just like it's so them. Love that. Sammy, so MJF the previous week forgot to get Sammy a jacket. Gets him a jacket this week, and it's fucking massive on him.
Yeah.
It's hanging off him. That's amazing. Sammy's fuming. And then so towards the end of the segment, basically Chris Jericho asks MJF to go for a steak dinner, and that reaction from Sammy, you just see him just come into shot, and he's just like, it's like the biggest thing that's ever happened in the world, and it's so funny. It just had me in stitches, and I can't say that about a wrestling show other than AEW in such a long time. It just consistently makes me laugh, and I think Chris Jericho, fantastic on the mic. MJF, fantastic on the mic. The pair of them together are just, no pun intended, dynamite. Really good.
Although,
basically,
are you not fearful of the prospect that this is a mechanism to push Sammy out of the group for a solo run?
No, I don't think that will happen. I think the whole stuff that's happening here, so basically, obviously anyone who only listens to us to know what happens in the shows, which there's probably a few of you out there for some reason, please watch the shows and don't listen to our terrible rendition. But so the point of this is MJF is coming out to make his big announcement, and his announcement, as much as he begrudgingly didn't want to say it, was that he maybe, sort of, hypothetically, kind of, possibly, maybe wants to join the Inner Circle. So he struggled to come to terms with that, but he did get those words out. And Jericho was kind of interested by that. The rest of the Inner Circle were like, no, we don't want you, fuck off. And Jericho was like, well, okay, let's, we have to make these decisions together as a group. So, give us a week. So I'll tell you what, they built it up as though Jericho was going to start challenging to a match. But you know what? Next week, you and me, eye to eye, steak dinner. So they're going to go and have a steak dinner next week, and they're going to discuss the outcome of that decision. So I think they are billing it as Le Dinner Debonair, which is fantastic. But yeah, whole segment, loved it, loved every minute of it. I think the pair of them are fantastic, and when they are together, it is just fucking microphone gold. So
yeah, no, they're both fantastic, to be fair.
Then we had the segment which was Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone having an interview inside a spa, which I just thought was just so funny as fuck. I found out as well that apparently this whole thing was just a rib on Tony. So he had no idea what was happening. So he went to the spa to do the interview segment with Britt, and then he ends up getting his chest whacked. His chest whacked. He had
and a
no
very
idea.
similar thing to the scene in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah. So he's lying there, and you can just see Britt Baker just completely corpse, and she's trying her best not to piss herself laughing, and they just wax his chest, and he's fucking going, ah! And he had no idea it was coming, and it's just, I don't know, it's so funny. But the whole point behind this was, Britt Baker's been out, she's been injured. She referenced a few times, she's faced adversity, she broke her nose, she broke her leg, she's been, in all these things, and now, she's a bad bitch, and the bad bitch is back. So, not that she was ever really gone, she wants to stress. But, so, great to have Britt Baker back in these hilarious segments with her doing the, the fucking being cheated kind of role that she does so well. So, yeah, great to have her back and featured regularly on television. We then had the TNT title match, and I fucking love this, Anthony. It was so good. So this was Cody versus Orange Cassidy. Wow. Something so different and so fresh. So obviously AEW like to do time limit imposed matches, and they are very, they don't shy away from this. Every match they go, it's a 20-minute time limit. This is it, whatever, and they always go into it.
I'm that used to ignoring the time limit, if you know what I mean, because it's never usually a factor, that you get used to them saying it. But it was actually really quite refreshing. This.
Well, that's it. I think I shared some infographic off Twitter. So I don't know who it was who created
infographic.
It, but, infographic off
Carl's
Twitter.
infographics.
That someone shared, which I thought was phenomenal, which was kind of a look over at AEW over the last year. And you can see match finishes and stuff like that. I think there was one DQ in the whole year worth of television, which I think I was joking with you, Anthony, wasn't I? I was like, you get fucking 1 an hour on Raw, for example. It is so bad.
They do have an inordinate amount of DQs, WWE.
Yeah, it's insane. So, if you compare that with just, 1 in a whole year, you forget that they can still excite you with a finish, which isn't, a DQ, a run-in, anything like that, but it's a legitimate count-out finish. And they just executed it so well. So for me, this was the best match probably that I've seen from Orange Cassidy. And he's had a fair few good matches now. But this one just told the best story. It was his Orange Cassidy ways. He was lazy. He started off the match a bit doing his usual shtick. Cody brought it out of him straight away. He knocked his glasses off and he was like, okay, fuck the glasses. I'm in it now. And they were saying Orange Cassidy's never had a lock-up. A fucking collar and elbow tie up, in the whole time he's been here. Straight away got into that. They were chain wrestling. They were doing amazing stuff. And, there was peaks and troughs. So that kind of great start to Cassidy kind of getting a bit of momentum, to Cody just battering him for ages, and Cassidy again just being too tired not to be arsed, doing silly stuff. There was a bit that happened in the middle of it where the Dark Order were there. Obviously, Brody Lee lost the belt the previous week. They were there and they just got dejected straight away. So I'm happy that it didn't cause any kind of real interference or anything like that. But at the same time, I don't know. I speak a lot of the time about Cody matches being overproduced. You just didn't need it. You just didn't need that. But
yeah, no, I'll take your point on that.
At least it wasn't detrimental to the match itself. But yeah, I just think the flow of it was so good, just from Cassidy being Cassidy through to the way the match unfolded, and then Cassidy ultimately has Cody beat, and it's a very close kick out, and then there's about 30 seconds left. Cassidy does everything he can. Cody gets a reversal. Cassidy manages to get him in the pin, and it's 1, 2, time runs out, and it doesn't get to hit the 3, but Cody was not kicking out. And it is I don't know, it's just it's so
I like that. That is it's fun, especially because you're seeing that slow sort of that guy who's yeah, I'm here, but I'm here for the paycheck, and sort of phoning it in, and slowly, not even just the Cody match, but slowly becoming more impassioned because of what's going on. You saw a similar thing with Jericho, where they start bringing the competitor out in him. I think I shared something with you not too long back about Cassidy, where they were saying about his whole career is one big story, essentially, where he started out, he was young, he was impassioned, he was giving it his all, and he was underappreciated, never hit it big, become sort of disenchanted with the business, started going, well, fuck it, I'm going to show up and I'm not going to put that same effort in. No one appreciates it anyway. Become the character that he is now, and then weirdly becomes over as that character, and then that slowly brings the passion back out in him. And I think in a much smaller format, you kind of see that in AEW, where he was there. He was that sort of comic character, and we're just seeing and more of him just becoming this awesome guy. Like he was so frustrated with that loss. That is something you wouldn't normally get out of Cassidy, you know. So it'd be interesting to see where they take this as well, because he had Cody beat, like you say, just was the time limit.
Yeah, definitely. So I think they were also harping on to the fact that Darby Allin was in a similar circumstances where, you know, he has got a pretty good claim to the title as well after their previous match. So
yeah, it's a fair point.
I think they've booked Cody versus Cassidy 2, not this week coming, but the week after, I think, to settle it, because obviously it didn't end in a way that we're all happy with. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was such a good little spin on something where, you know, Cassidy had him beat, you know, his first match back, his first defense, and he could have lost it. And it was like, you know, Cody's been away trying to, you know, deal with this loss from Brody in such a dramatic fashion. And it's like, well, fucking hell, he could have lost it again. So I also want to say, I've not even listed it here in the talking points, but I'm so happy he's back to being blonde again. I just, as soon as you see Cody Rhodes with fucking black hair, I just think back to like Dashing Cody Rhodes and stuff.
That's the trouble.
Yeah, so
WWE really hates us with that guy.
Yeah, Jesus, like he's so much better as a blonde. Please stick with blonde.
They notoriously have more fun.
They do. So yeah, please stay that way. The next highlight. So Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara continues, Anthony. So Hardy is in the audience with his wife and his kids, and he announces that he is 100% cleared. As he's talking to Shivani, we get the vignette on the screen, which shows a guy in a hood burning multiple photos of Matt Hardy. It turns out to be Sammy, and he basically says that, you know what, he was the one who took him out at All Out. So obviously he got hit in the knee with a baseball bat, and it kind of alluded to that it was Jericho. But it was actually Sammy, and he said, you know what, I took you out at All Out. I took you out so many different times. I busted your face open. You know, whenever I get the opportunity, whenever you're cleared, I'm going to be right there again to take you out again. So yeah, interesting that they are carrying that feud on, because I know a lot of fans were like, they need to drop it.
I'm glad they haven't, personally. I think Sammy got probably a bit more heat than he deserved for that Hardy spot, that whole concussion thing. And I don't think they ever got the chance to have because they both have the potential to have a really great match between each other. And I think they've had too many sort of whoopsies, for lack of a better way of putting it, that it's sort of stopped that from happening. And I think just having that one match where it goes off without a hitch, with any luck, that could be a nice little finisher to this. And I'm all for them having another match. Maybe just an actual match in a ring this time, though.
Well, yeah. I do think Sammy got a bit of a raw deal at the end of it, with obviously the chair spot, whether or not it was whatever you believe, whether it was accidental, whether whatever, that reflected badly on him. The whole botch at the pay-per-view reflected badly on him. So, and this is off the back of a very tumultuous year he's had with the Sasha comments and stuff as well. So, I'm glad that they are sticking with him. I'm glad that they are going to finish this feud off like they wanted to, and hopefully, I really hope that they just have a botch-free, like, great blow off to the feud. And so the final highlight that I've got for this week's Dynamite, the main event, I thought it was really, really good, to be fair. It wasn't long. I don't think it needed to be. There was commercial breaks in the middle of it and stuff as well, which never helped. But, considering the small amount of time they had, I feel like they got a lot done. There was the aggressiveness and the physicality, kicking off the match all the way through to like the hardcore undertones from, a lot of the stuff that, Moxley's done in the past, for example. So I all in all, I thought it was really good. I think the fact that Archer pretty much had him won, and it was a quick reversal from Moxley to get the pin was really good as well. And then Kingston comes out after the match, congratulating his old friend Moxley, and then ends up choking him out. So, bit on the fence about that finish, to be honest, because I'm not really sure. Because obviously Kingston has had his opportunity the week before, and Moxley choked him out. So it was a bit like, okay, why is this come back again? But I think Kingston's great on the mic. Moxley is one of the biggest stars in the company. So let's see, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It felt a bit weird.
No, I was a bit. I don't think I'm happy with it. Like, I like Kingston. Don't be wrong. I'm impressed with him in AEW. I think he's got a good future. I just don't. I feel like this kind of was done, and they've brought it back unnecessarily. Maybe. They're also pushing this whole like he's got this family, this faction, which is like, okay, we've already got the inner circle and stuff going on, so like I'm not overly bothered about the whole faction either, if I'm honest. But I don't know. Seeing's believing, and we've seen AEW pull off some really good stuff out of the bag. I don't be wrong, we've also seen them fail with some stuff. I'll cite the Nightmare Collective once again. So I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to make it something brilliant, but right now I'm not particularly over on it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks in terms of how they can sell it back to us, I think. But very strange end to the 1 year anniversary, shall we say. But still, not an O-shite. But in terms of some O-shites, I mentioned the first match of the night, we saw FTR defending their tag titles. So in this opening match, we got to see in the audience Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford were playing on an arcade machine. And they were playing God knows what, but they were playing something, and Penelope Ford was playing it. Didn't have a fucking clue what she was doing, but she was playing it. And there was a spot in the match where FTR ended up throwing, I think it was Trent, through the machine, and it smashes up into pieces, goes over, so just a wreck. And Kip Sabian's fuming, and he sends Penelope Ford to go off and get Miro. So I think they are massively underutilizing Penelope Ford. So
yes.
I don't know if she's injured, so I will throw my hands up. If that's the case, okay, at least she's getting on TV. But I've not heard anything about her being injured. So if she isn't, it just doesn't make any sense, because you've got a women's division where, and this is no offense to the match later in the night, because I think Big Swole is fantastic, but you've got a women's division that could absolutely use Penelope Ford right about now.
Yeah, I mean, we've often, I think it's a fair comment that AEW's women's division isn't as stacked as it needs to be, or as established as it needs to be. I think that's that. I mean, let's be honest, that's why Thunder Rosa give it a really good shot in the arm when she come for that few matches. So there's definitely still something to be desired with the women's division, and we've both said previously that if Penelope Ford's got something, she's got a ton of talent in the ring. I consequently ended up watching her have a match against Thunder Rosa on the Indies, because obviously we're doing our research for Thunder Rosa interview, and she was talented then as well, to be fair. She's definitely got the chops in the ring. So yeah, it does feel like you say, unless she's injured, they're definitely really underutilizing her at the minute for whatever reason.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. She's so much better. She is the breakout star over Sabian, to be fair. And I think,
yes.
And it's no offense to Sabian, because I think he's good as well. But they've got
he's good.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to say anything higher than that. But Penelope Ford definitely is the star in that relationship, and then you brought Miro in to also accelerate Sabian. So
it's not a good thing. Like, the two people who are there to accelerate Sabian, assuming that's what they're doing, are both outshining him.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't.
Like, Miro, just by his mere existence on AEW, outshines him because everyone was so behind Rusev Day. So, like, he didn't even have to do anything, just showing up, he outshined them. So it was not a great idea, that, really.
No, I think so. This is obviously the opening match, so they're not even that involved at this point. But at the same time, it is for the tag titles, and FTR. Basically, after this spot, they could quite easily go back in the ring and win by countout, but they decide they don't want to do that, and so they carry Trent back into the ring because they want to win it properly. But then, about 5 minutes later, they use the belt and smack fucking the other one, Corey. What the fuck's his name? Gone blank. Or the best friend.
That one, yeah.
Whose name escapes me for... What the fuck's his name? I want to say
Cassidy.
Corey, but it's not. Oh.
I can't think of it either, to be honest. We have Trent and Orange Cassidy and the other guy.
Chuck Taylor. Thank you for that. I think Chuck Taylor's the one who ends up beating the pin. But yeah, it was just like, well, why bother carrying Trent back into the ring if you don't want to lose? If you don't want to win, with shenanigans, only to then hit him with the fucking belt and win by shenanigans. Yeah, just felt very silly.
Yeah.
But then obviously after the match, Miro comes out and he batters best friends because they broke his arcade machine. So he's very upset. This is ahead of the subsequent match, which is another Oshite, which is Kip Sabian and Miro taking on the team of Sean Maluta and Lee Johnson. So Maluta, I believe, is one of the Anoa'i family.
Oh, really?
Lee Johnson, we've seen, a couple of times now on the likes of Dark and stuff as well. But yeah, the match was just meh as well. So Sabian didn't really do that much at all. And I get it because you're trying to make Miro the star. And it was pretty much a squash match for Miro. Although Miro botched the finish as well. So he went to go for his camel clutch and just went and completely missed the guy's head and set his arms in the air and was like, oh, wait, no. Yeah, I need to get him under the chin. That's it. So he even fucked that up as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I like the Miro character.
Right.
I do like it. I think it's different. He's a gamer and he's got the whole game over thing. He's got the best friend thing. He's got all that kind of good stuff and it sort of makes sense. But yeah, he's just not being utilised in the best way since he's joined. I'd
agree with that.
Underwhelming, I would say, to say the least. But if it leads now to a feud between, Sabian, Miro, and best friends, I can get behind that. I think it would be interesting from their, characters and personalities. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose it makes sense because you've got a guy like Miro, you bring him into AEW, he's probably one of the bigger guys there in terms of size. So, without putting him straight into the title picture, which would just be another WWE guys go straight to the title.
Funny you say about size because was it Rob Van Dam who recently called them all petite wrestling, which is quite funny actually.
From Rob Van Dam as well. Seriously, his name is 6 foot, is he? I don't think.
No, he's not a big fella to be fair.
But yeah, okay. So another Oshite I had was so they had this 4-team draw, like a roulette style thing. Where they're going to draw 4 teams to go into a Fatal 4 tag team match to determine the number 1 tag team contenders at Full Gear.
Okay, I'm following you so far.
Yeah, a lot of tags matches, but yeah, you kind of get me. So they draw 4 teams, and the Young Bucks get drawn as one of the teams, and Shivani's really upset by it because they super kicked them the previous week, and then they come out. And they're like, no, don't worry, Shivani, we're not going to super kick you. We're going to super kick everyone else. And then it turns into them super kicking everyone. And it's a bit like, I'm so done with it. I know they're trying to get to FTR Young Bucks, and that's what everyone wants to see. But surely there was a better way to do it than, what happened to the rankings? Why is it let's put, every tag team in a fucking drum and draw 4 teams out at random, and one of them happens to be the Young Bucks?
Sadly,
really?
The rankings was a nice idea on paper, but it doesn't work.
You
can't have storylines and rankings at the same time because when you look at the ranks and they try and refer to the ranks, you go certain ones lend itself perfectly. Like MJF had a really good record and never had a title shot, so then they use that. But then you look at other ones and you go, we're not interested in that really. So I don't know. For me, when they're trying to lead somewhere story-wise, but they haven't had the foresight to set up their ranking to a point that it makes sense that they go up against each other.
See, for me, I think though that is the only thing that's missing is the foresight. For someone who's a massive UFC fan as well as wrestling, the rankings make so much sense, and it's well, who's coming off so many wins to get themselves a title match or whatever. So I
think
by and large,
probably it might have worked better had the coronavirus not have caused a lot of issues as well.
Maybe, although to be fair, I don't think they were doing an exceptional job of it prior to that either. So I think the point you make is very valid, but I think at the same time they could do a much better job of just adhering to them rankings and trying to plan a bit better to be well, yeah, it makes sense that this guy's coming up for it because on the rankings it doesn't have to be big wins. I think where they fall down is they try and factor in quality of win and stuff, and they've made it too complicated. It should just be a win-loss record.
Because on paper, like, it should work really well for people like Miro coming in. Miro comes in with a head of steam, but he can't get at the title because he needs to build up his rank. It makes sense.
Exactly.
Even doing a squash match makes sense because he needs to get those wins under his belt to justify going for the title. So on paper, it works really well, but I don't know. Like you say, they've not. But I think they've had storylines that haven't lended themselves to the rankings, so they've just fucking ignored it.
I just think, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a cop out to do like we're gonna do like this fucking version of bingo where we're gonna draw a team out, and it was like, okay, I don't know. The teams that got drawn as well, it was like, would it be them teams? There was no like super surprise shock. Do you know what I mean? So it was,
I feel like it's almost up there with NXT's. What we're going to do, we're going to take a member of each tag team and make them tag up with a member of another tag team, and then the winner will then go on to face each other in their respective tag teams to decide who gets to be a number one contender for the tag team titles. That was a fucking mess.
Overbooking. That's what they call it.
So at least it made a little bit more sense to follow, but I feel like it was up there with that the way they're just like trying to come up with this crazy draw. It's just like, just chill out, man.
Yeah. And then I've only got two more O'Shites. One of them was, unfortunately, because I wanted this to be really good, was actually Shida versus Big Swole. And I feel like it started off really good. There was a lot of physicality. It was hard hitting. It was fast paced. But as the match went on, there was just, I don't know, it just fell apart. There was so many botches. They both looked fucking exhausted. They were just like, there's a point where Shida and Swole tried to do like a double nip up spot, and Shida couldn't even do a nip up, and it was a bit, I don't know, it proper died on its arse, and it was a shame to see, really, because I was so excited for it, because I thought they put on such a good show, and I know they're capable of doing something better, but in this particular match, I've got to be true and just say that it wasn't that good, unfortunately.
I think, unfortunately, they need someone, like, it's probably the wrong time for them to face each other. This might be an unfair statement, but, like, Shida and Thunder Rosa worked so well because Thunder Rosa was able to elevate Shida and vice versa, whereas I think these two really needed each other but couldn't provide for each other. Do you know what I mean? I think you needed more of a veteran in there, instead of Swole, sadly, because Shida's the champion. So I think you needed someone with a lot more chops in the ring to be able to sort of help elevate Shida. And obviously help themselves, but like obviously it's about elevating Shida as the champion. So I think Swole was probably just the wrong choice at this point, as much as I like Swole.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think they can put on a really good show. I just think it just wasn't their night. I don't know whether it was miscommunication, whether it was just the fact he blew up or what, but I felt it could have been so much better. Even like to your point, like I feel. And it's no disrespect to Shida, but I feel like she did massively benefit from having the likes of, Thunder Rosa in there with her. And I know Big Swole hasn't got the pedigree or the chops to be that level yet. But at the same time, I don't know, I still expected better from the pair of them.
To be honest, mate, I think I need to be fair to Swole here, because I'm not blaming Swole for this match. I just think that Shida's got experience, but she's not got enough experience to elevate Swole, which is what Swole needed. Like, the same way Thunder Rosa elevated Shida, Shida needed to be the Thunder Rosa in this match and elevate Swole. And I don't think Shida was able to do. I don't think Shida's got the experience to do that yet. So it's not a slight on Swole. It's the fact that Swole needed that person because she is the greener one of the two, and Shida couldn't be that person. And it's absolutely no disrespect to Swole. I just think until Shida's got enough chops to be able to sort of carry that sort of slightly younger talent, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think to be fair, it makes sense.
That's good, because I was rambling a bit towards the end.
No, it makes sense. I think I don't know. I don't know what it was. It just felt off, and I felt like the pair of them were off. And the fact that Shida couldn't even do a nip up spots and stuff, something wasn't right. And I don't want to shit on it too much, because I feel like like on a different day, these guys would have been able to put on a much better match. So I think it just was what it was. Hopefully we'll get to see them again down the line. Hopefully it'll be much better. And the last one, Anthony, is just more of the fact that, it would be remiss if I didn't call this out, since I did the same for Clash of the Champion Candy Crush Saga,
Yes.
what the fuck it was called. But the fact is, every title was on the line in this show, and similar to what I said at Clash of Champions, like, well, no titles change hands, and it's like,
Why?
like at the same time, I don't mind, like, if you think, like, again, I'm going to do another UFC reference. Like, there's been times where I've watched the show that was a massive show. There was 3 titles on the line, and none of the titles change hands. And it's like, you know what? In competition, there's nothing to say that the champions will be fucking dispossessed of their belts, and so fair play. But at the same time, I feel like when in pro wrestling, when you build this up to be like every title's on the line, I just expect to see one of them change.
Yeah. And
At
to
a
be honest,
minimum.
certain ones, I don't know if you agree or not, but like if Cassidy had took the title, that could have still worked. Because similarly, there's no reason to say that because Cody's won the title back, he has to keep it for any amount of time. Like, and I think you cited that, to be honest, last week. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. If Cassidy had took the win, that would have still been a storyline going forward for Cody because he's struggling with the fact that he's lost it again. It would have been an elevation for Cassidy. And I'm not upset with the finish. I love the way that they booked it, and I love the frustration in Cassidy and the fact that it went to time limits, so there was technically not a pin there. But at the same time, it's like, for me, if you're going to swap a title, if you're going to change a title on this 1-year anniversary, for me, the TNT title would have been the one to do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But Anthony, all being said, all in all, I still thought it was a really good show. There was a couple of things in there that did bring it down for me. So even though it was their 1-year anniversary, it was a big spectacle, a lot of titles on the line. I'm only able to give it a 3.5 out of 5, and that's just because I think just some of the matches just didn't deliver for me, and I felt like the Miro Sabian stuff it felt like a bit of filler.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could have done better, and I don't know whether I'm being a bit more biased because it was their anniversary show, but it was still good.
To be honest, you might be surprised at this, but I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah.
It was the most okayish week I've had in a while with AEW. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I look, and it's a weird reason to give it a 3, but if I look at the card and look at what happened, am I going to be talking about this in a few weeks' time? Probably not. Is there any match there that's so memorable that I'm still going to be talking about it? No. For me, the best stuff on there was Jericho and MJF because they're always entertaining. And there was some good matches on there. Cassidy and Cody in particular was a really good match. But I don't know. For me, I'm like, it suffered a similar fate that NXT tends to suffer, where on paper everything's working, the card is decent and stacked, but it just was kind of underwhelming. And I don't want to be too unfair to it because it wasn't bad. It just, I don't know, it didn't hit as well as other weeks have for Dynamite. Maybe I'm being too harsh because they've set their own bar, but yeah, it was certainly a 3 for me.
Do you know what? I think it's fair. I think them being like it's our anniversary show and stuff, it sets your expectations that slight bit higher, and I don't feel like
I think that's what it is, yeah.
by and large, this was their anniversary show. It just felt like a good episode of Dynamite, but I feel like it wasn't. Yeah,
I'll take your points. Yeah, it was a good Dynamite, but like this was meant to be, like, it's been a year, like, it was meant to be a big thing. So yeah, I think that's probably what it is. They've sold me on giving it a 3.
Nice. Okay.
So we'll move on to SmackDown then, have a quick call.
Oh yeah.
Fuck's sake.
If you
Okay,
must.
I need to moan a lot about this, so I'm just going to mention it while I go through the card. But we open the night with a promo-ish from Triple H and Stephanie introducing the season premiere of SmackDown, and I've got a lot to say about that. But that's how we start the night. We then move on to Lars Sullivan versus Jeff Hardy, with Lars Sullivan taking the win. We move on to a promo from the New Day, which then leads to the New Day versus Shinsuke, Cesaro, and Sheamus, with the New Day taking the win. I'll stress that that's the full New Day. They've not been split up yet. Officially, the rest go over next week. This Monday. We then had Daniel Bryan cutting a promo because he's back now, but he's not going to have a match yet. But then it does end up in a little bit of a battle with Seth, so that's interesting. We had the Street Profits up against Dolph and Rude, with the Street Profits taking the win in a surprising DQ finish. Surprising for me because I thought they just put them over, but there you go. We saw Sasha Banks and Bayley doing a contract signing for Hell in a Cell because we love a good contract signing. And then we closed the night out with Braun versus Roman Reigns, with Roman Reigns taking the win because, of course, he fucking was. Braun's on Raw now. What the fuck was the point? So that was the card, Carl. And it was okay. It was okay. I'll do the highlights because let's be positive first of all. So, to be fair, the New Day's promo was a really good promo. It helped remind you of a lot of what the New Day have done. They've been together for a really long time. It was really heartfelt. And yet, to be fair, like that promo has helped me even more go, yeah, this is a real shame that they split them up. And that's exactly what it was meant to do. So a really good promo. Better than the 3-on-3 match in all honesty, but all in all, this is exactly what we wanted. And it's genuinely going to be a shame seeing Big E on his bill now. So yeah, it did exactly what it needed to do. As far as other highlights, we had Daniel Bryan going up against Seth. Totally on board with that. We didn't get a full-on match this week, but this is what we got. We got this sort of back and forth and this bit of a battle between the two. Daniel Bryan sort of his scathing comments to Seth Rollins were actually quite good. I can see this feud building well, and I sincerely hope this is where they're going, but I do have to moan about that a little bit too. But all in all, what do you think of the potential for a match between Seth and Bryan?
I'm very interested in this.
Yes.
Probably no surprise. I love the bones of the pair of them, so to see them face off, I'm all for that, I would say. I think two technical wrestlers, two former champs, two former IC champs, two workhorses. I think we've seen them way back when in Ring of Honor, like when it was like Tyler Black.
This is the funny thing. This is like revisiting something that I've never seen in a weird way.
Well, exactly, and like we've seen a few of these over the years, and some of them by and large haven't lived up to their old school predecessors. But I think with these two, I think this is going to be fucking epic if they build it right, and they get it like just the animosity that they showed in that feud, and they had the whole kind of sentimental thing with Brie and Birdie are watching on the screen, and oh shit, and then like Seth like takes them out and stuff as well. I don't know. I feel it could be something really, really good, and it's a shame really that we got after that whole thing it was still the Mysterios, and it was a bit like
I mean that goes into me shites as well because like it's like that I was on board for this happening, and then it's like no, let's go back to the old stuff, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But that was a bit disappointing the way they finished it off, sadly. But if they're building towards ultimately a feud between them two, I'm on board for that. Let's do that. My last highlight, Carl, before we go into the shites, was actually Roman Reigns. Now, I know you probably can't call this a squash as a squash goes, but Roman Reigns going up against Braun, I loved it. Like, you couldn't build Roman up any better. This is so much of a stark contrast to when we started this podcast, and I did nothing but moan about Roman Reigns. I have nothing but praise for the man right now. I'm so over on this character, this heel work. I'm so over on this was the best thing in the show. Like, and I didn't think I'd ever be saying that, but he's putting himself across so well. This whole thing, like, even the way they done the finish, we had him ultimately choking Braun out. Like, we've never seen Braun submit. We had him just choking him the fuck out. And then, no, he wasn't done because he's a fucking bastard. So he got a chair and just started beating the shit out of him. Why was he doing it? Does he have anything against Braun? No. He wanted to send a message to Jay. And even that I thought was fantastic. We didn't need Paul Heyman. We had Roman saying, if I can do this to him, what do you think I can do to you? And he just laid into Braun because he took out the biggest guy in the yard just to prove a point to his cousin. And I was like, fuck me, this is really good work. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole way it worked. And sadly, Braun got squashed, really. It's not a squash. It's like, there's 5 seconds, you fuck. But the fact that they had him, like, not even just get the pin lost, they had him lose in a really decisive fashion and then just take a beating. Fair play to Braun as well for putting that booking across as well. I can't knock the man. I'm on about it most of the time, but Braun, like, he really sold the being choked out. He really sold the chair shots. Fair play. Can't knock it. Thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah, same. I think like this has been staring them in the face for so many years. Like, look what you could have had with Roman years and years ago if you would have pulled the fucking trigger and stopped caring so much about merchandise sales. I
dare say he'd sell more merch now.
Yeah, me too. I think he's excelled above and beyond his old school stuff, and like the fact you mentioned about Paul Heyman not having to rely on him, like that in itself speaks volumes. Because Roman is a shit promo; he is so bad. But at the same time, since he's like done this new kind of fucking like thing, he's got this new level of confidence where he doesn't have to say much, but if he says it right and it's not cliche, he gets the point across, and you can like, well, fucking hell, this guy's got Paul Heyman in his corner and he's just told a much better story. And it's like that in conjunction with this new character and this new gimmick just blends so nicely.
I love the fact that they've blended it perfectly like that, where Roman can talk way better than Brock. That's fair. But he's not a great talker. And they've acknowledged that, even to the point that it's like, we've got Heyman when we need him, so that you don't start noticing the weakness in Roman. Because if you give Roman the mic for too long, you're going to start noticing he's not that great. But this was all he needed. He didn't say much at all, like you say, but he made his point to Jay. And I was so there with that point. I'm like, fuck, like that's brutal. You know what I mean? And it really gets you on buff. Like, what's he going to do to Jay? Jesus Christ. It was, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I couldn't be more happy with how they're going with this. And who'd have thought you'd be like, how, if I'd have, like, let's say I could travel back in time, right, to when we started this podcast, Carl, to the Rumble
7 months ago,
Rumble talk, yeah. And I said to you, look, Carl, honestly, come October 2020, you're gonna think Roman Reigns is boss, and the feud we're going into is Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, and it's awesome. You'd tell me to fuck right off.
Yeah,
who'd have thought?
Especially
that would be a
more
boss
about
feud.
the latter. I think like I would never have predicted fucking Roman versus Jey Uso.
That's the thing, because you could imagine Roman being in the title scene. That wasn't unrealistic, as much as we weren't over on him as the character he was at the time. But to think Jey Uso was going to be the best feud he's had in a long time, where's that come from? That's insane. Like, and fair play to pair of them; they're doing really well with it. But let's not keep talking about the good stuff, Carl. The old shites for SmackDown, right? I'm going to start where it started. What the fuck was that? Right, we opened the night with Triple H and Stephanie doing their absolute best to be hosting some sort of fucking game show, and they're like introducing the season premiere of SmackDown. And they're like, "We've got some new faces. Let's bring them on down." And like being proper cheesy with Triple H being like introducing Lars Sullivan and going, "He's a stupid freak." And you're like, I know you're a dad now, Trip, but fuck, mate, that was so cringe.
He felt so out of touch, and even the fact when, you know, not to spoil what you're going to talk about, but even to the point where everything went to shit and like everyone started fighting, him and Steph just fucking bolted, and it was like Triple H of old would not get out of there.
Like, he went from being a badass with a sledgehammer to doing little songy dance things and run away. But like before, like it does ultimately end up in a random brawl. The other thing I want to mention about Triple H and Steph is like, I don't know if they got a little bit confused about what their aim was, because they're like, oh, we've had a lot of people say, well, we've got some new faces. Let's introduce a few of them. And he started introducing a few of the new faces, like Kevin Owens and Aleister Black, which makes sense because they've moved over. That makes a lot of sense. And then they go, Sami Zayn. He was already there. Otis, he was already there, Trip.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are we introducing people who were already on the fucking team?
So, in other words, instead of introducing new faces, guys, you want to set up the new feuds for the season. That's basically what they did.
We've got Kevin Owens, but look, we've got Aleister Black as well. Oh.
Yeah. Then it was like, we got Sami Zayn and we got Otis, and guess what? Later on in this night, they're going to have a little backstage segment. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
And we'll look at that like as well. Season premiere, and what do we get? We get Kevin Owens and Aleister Black hinting at again. Like, I didn't care
Brand
about
new,
it in the first place,
fresh,
man.
Yeah, freshly squeezed shit.
Anyway, we had Lars Sullivan getting a massive introduction and a fucking entrance with music and everything, unlike everyone else who was stood there. And then that ultimately results in a brawl, nice big brawl from everyone, random people fighting who you wouldn't normally see fighting. Sadly, I still can't remember who Corbin was fighting, but you know when you're just like, why are you guys fighting? Doesn't make any sense.
I feel like that was the case with a lot of them, to be fair.
I know we had some feuds built up, so when you see Aleister Black and Kevin Owens going for it, you go, okay. But a lot of it was... There was
a point where Murphy was just battering Callisto, and I was like, that's not Rey Mysterio, it's just another Mexican in a mask. Please stop hitting him.
And he kept screaming, Rey. But no, the whole thing, like, and they just make a massively overly big deal of Lars, don't they?
Too much.
Which leads me to me next oh shite, I suppose, because we had like this unnecessarily big deal made of Lars by Triple H, by Stephanie, by everyone. Then we had, and this is only this is me not liking Jeff, but before the brawl, as the brawl kicked off, Jeff was the one taking it to Lars Sullivan, coming at him, going for him, which sets up for their match that was coming up after the ad breaks, obviously. But like I'm just there looking at it like, yeah, okay, Jeff, we know that you're gonna end up being the fucking underdog through the rest of the match because that's who you are, that's what you do. So to me it felt a little bit out of character, him being the one who's taking it to the
also
big guy.
It made perfect sense that they would put the guy who's taking it to the SmackDown star being the guy who's just been drafted to Raw. It's like, okay, makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. So so we move on to the Lars Jeff match, and to be honest, Carl, and I'm actually looking at my messages now to because I want to point out how stupid this fucking is, right? Where are we? So we had Lars Sullivan come out and have his match with Jeff, and the match itself was probably what it was, and I'm trying to find me count now, but basically we had Michael Cole and Corey, and I've mentioned this to you previously, Carl, before the podcast, but they done nothing but call him the Freak because they really want us to remember that nickname. We had, I can't remember the exact total number, but in the space of 20 minutes, we had a Freak every 30 seconds. I counted this shit, right? That's how often they were going, the Freak, Lars Sullivan, Freak, Freakity, Freak, right? And the pair of them were over on him. Now, traditionally, we get one member of the commentating team doesn't like him and the other member loves him. Nope, they both fucking loved him. They both had such a hard on for the man that I'm here like, why are we getting this rammed down our throats? And they're telling us unrealistic things. They're telling us things like he's such an abnormal, and this is why we call him a freak. He's so abnormal athlete for a guy his size, 6'3". Yeah, okay, he's 6'3", and 300 pounds, whatever it is. Oh, and he's just so athletic for his size. Like that's exactly how you describe Keith Lee. So he's not a freak, is he? He's one of two so far. Right, and then in the match he does this sort of, and I'm not going to knock him for going to the top rope because he is a big guy, but he went to the top rope and he done just a basic splash. He fell, landed on his chin because Jeff rolled out of the way, and that was that. And then, oh my God, this guy his size going to top rope, and I'm like, well, we've seen Brock do a shooting star press, sorry. So yeah, like why is it a big deal that Lars has done it? Like Brock did something a lot more athletic and a lot more dangerous. All right, he nearly killed himself for Kurt. Okay, but he did it so many times before where it wasn't a problem. This isn't the first time a big guy's gone to the top rope. Right?
I think the thing that tickles me is like he's not even a big guy. It's not a guy his size. He's like 5'11", but wide. It's like really. It's like Jeff Hardy was towering over him, and like you said before, you only like him because you met him, Carl. Like I am short as shit, right? I'm like 5'8" at a push, right? And Jeff Hardy towered over me, and you can see the pictures somewhere on our social medias of me meeting him.
That's true.
And like I come up just like not much past his shoulder, but Jeff's only about fucking 6 foot, like neat. Do you know what I mean? And he was almost towering over Lars at one point. So
yeah.
I don't get it.
I know WWE have got a history of embellishing people's heights. Like they always exaggerated Undertaker's a little bit and so on. And they had people wearing.
Well, apparently Adam Cole, who's about 5'6", is like 6'1" or something.
Yeah. So because they keep lying to us about heights, like Lars has to be 6'3" now, but he's not. And for me, when you've got Braun on the same show that night, and I know they didn't make them stand together because that would have been too obvious. Like you can't push how abnormally freakishly big this guy is. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
You know what I thought was funny?
You're
though,
lying
well,
to me face. It's.
I feel like they didn't make Jeff and him stand together in the whole match. I feel like Jeff was just on his arse and on his back.
There was always like fly, splashy.
There was never like
whatever,
them two stood up side by side. It just didn't happen. So I feel like they are.
Jeff, can you when you do stand in front of him, can you crouch a little?
Yeah, like Lars is there just in platforms.
And especially for a man who is basically the controversy magnet at the moment because he won't keep his fucking fingers off his fucking phone.
Or his dick.
I'm surprised WWE is still going so fucking hard in with it and being like, he's the freak, he's just amazing, he's the best thing. Oh my God, we signed him to SmackDown.
So
no one cares.
So
no one cares.
Yeah.
So yeah, wasn't over on that at all. This one, I'm curious how you feel about it because this isn't really an shite. It's just one that puzzled me. Michael Cole stated on this SmackDown, this is the first time ever the Universal title has been defended on SmackDown.
Like, is that true? Like, if
I
so,
really hope it's not, because that
they've not
sounds.
had any fight. Like Drew on Raw every fucking week is like, do you know what? I fancy a challenge. Come on, you bastards, and
Exactly,
fight
and I'm
someone.
like, that's shocking. It's your biggest title. How has it not been defended? Oh, sorry.
Not.
I do know why it's not been defended. Goldberg had it.
That is true. If you look at people who've held that title, then it kind of makes more sense. To be fair.
Yeah, but yeah, that to me, just that statement was a shocker. It's like, really, it's never been defended on SmackDown, like, ever. But there you go. Apparently, that's true. Right, and we alluded to it before, but let's go into it a little bit again. Seth Rollins isn't going up against the Mysterio. Let's rectify that as quick as we possibly can. What do we get, Carl? We get the Mysterios getting involved. We get Murphy coming down to help Seth. Oh no, he's not. He's going to attack Seth, and then he's going to try and shake the hands of Dominic and Ray and get rejected. Why do we insert all of them? Just cause they don't like Seth, do they?
I hate it so much.
Like,
So
aren't they meant to be the
much.
good guys? Why are they going like?
And like Murphy came out, made the save effectively, and made Rollins fuck off, and he's there holding his hands out, and they're like, no, don't want to shake your hand. And it's like what? Like Mysterios came off as being just fucking bitter pricks. To be fair.
Thing is, like, this is the thing, like, and I kind of understand Ray a little bit, because it's like, well, I suppose Murphy was the guy who initially put your eye into the step, but like at the same time, you've kind of had more than enough payback on that, because Murphy has took a beating from you guys consistently for a while now, to the point that, like, before she decided to fancy him, Leah was beating the shit out of him with a kendo stick. So everyone,
Literally
the whole
minutes
family,
before.
the whole family treated him like a big piñata and beat the
Yeah.
shit out of him. So
Not
aren't we even?
not to go there with the Mexican stereotypes, but
Sorry, yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah. Sorry. Although I've heard that joke before, that wasn't even mine. But yeah, like, for me, I'm just like, I don't get why this had to be included. I was all on board for Brian and Seth, as I mentioned, and this inclusion, just to further them. I don't even think Seth's actually technically involved. I think they're just furthering this whole myth. I can't say his name. Buddy.
Murph.
The whole thing with Buddy trying
Not my
to
buddy guy.
trying to become friends with them because he wants to, like, sleep with a girl significantly younger than him. I think that's the storyline, right?
I think that's pretty much where we're going.
Yeah, okay. So so it wasn't over with that. My last O'Shite was again, not necessarily an O'Shite, but I'm like, what the fuck? At some point in SmackDown, they cut over to Jay Glazer, the Fox Insider, to discuss SmackDown for some reason and the draft picks.
You know
Like,
Jay, right?
who
Jay?
the fuck's the Fox Insider?
Jay?
Why have we got this as a thing? Why is he stood on, like? Why is he treating it like football, to the point that it was even like a fake football pitch thing he was stood on with the lines? Like, are you normally a football correspondent and you just kind of fill in time? I don't understand what
I
this
feel like
was.
that's what happened.
Like, and who gives a shit? What? No offense, but who gives a shit what you think about the draft picks? They've happened now.
True, very true.
Yeah. So that was
Bit
weird.
late on that one.
So, do you want to? I know you've got a couple of notes here, Carl. I wanted to mention about certain appearances from certain stars. Do you have any other notes before I do that, or?
So I think I've spoken about most of them. The only other one was just a really fucking pernickety one from me. Was he kept talking about this being the whole new season premiere of SmackDown, and like they updated the whole opening fucking segment video and everything.
Yeah, we had Seth and Werner for now. Yay.
We had Seth in his fucking Shield gear.
Of course.
We had we had Roman Reigns being like hoorah and punching the floor, and it was like, really? This is your season premiere? You've just changed a load of your characters, and this is what you do? Like, fine, you may have had these video stock footage in the fucking archive somewhere, but surely you would just get them to do something that was more relative. So that was just a bit more of a me being bitchy, but it made me laugh.
No,
I was watching it going, oh, season premiere, that's old. Yeah, he hasn't done that in forever. Whoa, he's wearing that. He hasn't worn that in about 2 years. So that was my kind of
no, it makes a lot of sense.
remarks.
No, I get you. Like you say, bit more production maybe, given that this is your season premiere. So what I didn't like, Carl, was they had some mention. before SmackDown that certain legends were going to be appearing, certain people were going to appear, and one that really pissed me off, and I heard about this before SmackDown, was Goldberg's going to be appearing, and Goldberg made a statement himself saying, I'm going to be very interested in the title match. It's like, you stay the fuck away from the title, you big old cunt, right? But what annoyed me even more...
Sorry.
Sorry, Carl.
You fuck off, you big old cunt. Sorry, love that. Go on.
So, what annoyed me even more was the fact that these people were literally phoning it in, to the point that this was not any appearances at all. In actual fact, this was clickbait at its best, where they're like, tune in, you're going to see some legends. And they were watching the show as well, because they appeared on the Thunderdome screens. That's right. We saw the legendary Jeff Jarrett on one of the screens. We saw Brie and Birdie on one of the screens. We saw Ric Flair on one of the screens. We saw Mark Henry on one of the screens. And we saw Goldberg on one of the screens. And weirdly, not officially mentioned by WWE or by the commentary team, we saw Keith Lee in there as well for some reason. Now,
oh, really?
Yeah, just randomly. Yeah, he was one of the screens. I don't know whether, but the trouble is, you never know whether that's some sort of troll on the internet putting him up on the fucking screens, or what. You just don't know anymore.
Like a couple of things. Like, to me, I thought the Brie and Birdie thing was fine. It made sense. It was probably the best use. So I can't shit on that one too much. Mark Henry was fucking driving in his car. Like, if you see him, he's just
not
like
watching TV, Mark.
It's like, you're gonna kill a guy? Like, what are you doing? Like, is this how low you've come to get stars on your show? It's like, yeah, Mark, you available? No, I'm making a cross country drive. Can you do it anyway? I mean, I can. Really?
Like, okay. Watch out, guys! This is gonna get dicey. But yeah, to me, this just is so lazy. Like, and the fact that Goldberg, right, if you're only gonna have your little face on the screen, just keep your mouth shut. Then, like, I don't care. Like, watch it like the rest of us. Then, like, I kind of get it with Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair. Like, they probably like it would have been a massive deal that they have rocked up on SmackDown fully. Maybe Rick, to be honest, but I'm fine with it. You know, they're old. They're probably in the recliners, with the weathers or whatever. So they don't want to go out. And I get that,
The weathers. I love this.
So,
anyone listening from our USA contingent, have they got weathers over there?
Yeah, was that did that work? Anyway,
it's like an old school, old man toffee candy.
Yes.
Check it out. It sounds amazing. I've done a great job. You're welcome with us.
Yeah. So I digress and got a little bit bitchy there, but yeah, for me, the whole idea of like, oh, who's going to appear on SmackDown this week, and it could just be someone on a fucking LED screen, just kind of annoys me. Like, don't market that. Don't use that.
Keeping us guessing, Anthony. Keeping us guessing.
So I just needed to moan about that for a sec as well. But that being said, the further away Goldberg stays from the title picture, the better.
Yeah, agreed.
In no way, and this is no offense to Goldberg, right? But there is no way your insertion into the title scene could be a good thing at this point.
It's beneficial to anybody but yourself.
I don't even mind if Roman Reigns ultimately has a match with you at some point, as long as Roman Reigns goes over and you don't insist that you win because you're Goldberg, which happens. But, oh shit, it'll happen again, won't it? He insisted on beating The Fiend because the bad guy shouldn't win. Roman's the bad guy. Don't have a match with Roman, please. For the sake of all things good. It's the only good thing on SmackDown at the minute. Please don't.
That would be the fucking culmination of everything, wouldn't it? To be from a point where we were like, please don't have Roman versus Goldberg. That would be terrible. We'd have to have fucking, Roman would have to go over and no one would like it, blah, 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 too. Okay, please don't have Roman versus Goldberg because we don't want Goldberg to go over Roman. Like, what a year.
But the thing is, right, there was a time when Spear versus Spear was bookable. At that WrestleMania, funnily enough, I don't give a shit about Spear versus Spear now. Roman's past all that. He's a totally different character now. The only way this would work for me is if Goldberg rocks up to have that match they never had, and he chokes him out the same way he choked Braun out to prove his dominance.
Yeah, he's just
I don't want to Spear.
We never see Goldberg again.
In fact, I think it'd be a better troll to the audience that there's not a single spear from Roman and he just chokes him out. Like, and that's, again, nothing against Goldberg. I just think it'd be a funny way to book it to sort of to subvert our expectation. But anyway, just don't have the match. That's even easier. As far as ratings go, Carl, I didn't give it one. It's a 3 for me. It was okay. It mostly held on the shoulder. Yeah, no, 2.5. It was 2.5 for me because
that was
the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I
eyebrow-raised,
can't give it the same as Dynamite. That's not right. 2.5, and that was
Okay.
largely on the shoulders of enjoying the Roman stuff. Like that. That was had a
I
massive.
feel like you've become a massive Roman mark. Like, I like it because it means what they've done has been successful. At the same time,
it's proof that it worked. I have like this. I hate when it sounds petty, and it's not like I went out of my way to dislike Roman when I say this. I hate when WWE tell me how I should feel. And when they're telling me Roman's the best thing ever and you should love Roman, it annoys me even more, especially when Roman, the character at the time, was kind of boring. And to be fair to Roman, he's even said he was doing his job. He turned up, WWE told him to do this, and he did his job. And I get that. And he did his job to the best of his ability. But when you're told you have to be the face and you have to be like this guy, and in all fairness, his mic skills, he's a much better heel, but his mic skills at the time when he was having like weird banter with Big Show, like telling a story about giants and stuff, and you're like, what the fuck is this? How's this mic work? I don't know. I was never a fan, but I can't, as much as I probably didn't admit it at the time, you can't deny he always had some potential there. And I feel like this is the realization of that potential. And I wouldn't be a true fan if I just carried on hating him because it's popular to hate him. Like, I have to acknowledge the absolute awesome return he's had and the work he's done. So yeah. I'm a mark.
Well, thanks, Mark. For my rating this week, I'm only giving it a 2 because I felt I don't know. I felt it was built up far more than what was actually delivered. Like,
no, that is a really good point.
I feel like, I mean, the New Day was the New Day. Lars, like, I fucking hate Lars. I'm like, Jeff, I'm not really that over him anyway. The only kind of standout to me was Daniel Bryan and Seth, their little feud, and the Braun Roman stuff. Like, even the Sasha and Bailey stuff, which we kind of glossed over.
Glossed over because it didn't fucking matter. We're going to have a match.
That was
good for you.
Exactly. But even then, it was like, well, I'm not signing the contract. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? It was just, it was a bit.
I would love one of them. You have a contract signing, and you're like, I'm not. And like, the other person just goes, oh, for fuck's sake, just sign the fucking thing. Exactly. We all know you're going to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was, it did not feel like a season premiere. It was far too cheesy at times, although I am very keen to see Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, and I am liking Roman. So I will say a 2 for me is fair.
I like it. Well, guys, that was This Week in Wrestling.
Hey, everybody. This is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A to the K.